Hi, welcome to the Forecasting for Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brie. I'm a doctor of psychology, financial educator, astrologer, and founder of Forecasting for Success, a community of people improving their financial literacy to achieve financial independence. I blend my expertise as a former professor and financial intelligence analyst with the tool of astrology to help break down why you are struggling with specific money habits and the best way to form more intentional responses and choices when it comes to money, especially to help you feel more secure in your financial decisions and improve your money skills for building long-term wealth. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Okay, let's go over the current Venus transits for this week, and then we'll dive into putting together everything we've discussed over these past several weeks when it comes to managing your money. Venus is finishing up her time in Aquarius this week and is currently sextile Chiron in the sign of Aries. When two planets are sextile, this creates an opportunity for dynamic change and growth specific to the two planets involved. In this case, Venus refers to our values and Chiron refers to our wounds. And more specifically, it represents what has wounded us and what we need to focus on to evolve and better ourselves and to heal these wounds in a way. This means you may experience old wounds around your self-worth surfacing, or this may be a useful time to review some past experiences through the lens of your current value system to understand how far you've come and that you have better tools now to serve your needs that align with your values. So it's not necessarily about re-experiencing uncomfortable events or being wounded again. Instead, this time is more likely to be about consciously recognizing ways in which you've helped resolve old wounds and establish wiser value systems or self-awareness, and appreciate how far you've come in some ways to appreciate yourself and better fortify your self-worth. And this transit has supportive energy to help you examine your beliefs in case there is more work to do. Our sense of self-worth is foundational, and this transit offers meaningful opportunity to strengthen that foundation instead of avoiding it. Another important transit this week is Venus square to Uranus and Taurus. You do have to be careful with your money during this transit because it can trigger impulsive spending or otherwise spending money on things that are not good for you or lack meaning. This means that it's important to have a plan of a healthy behavior that you could do instead in case you catch yourself wanting to spend money on something that does not align with your values or goals. Some of my clients have said before that they do experience a strong feeling sometimes of wanting to spend money even though they don't need to. So one thing I recommend if you're unable to distract yourself with something else, like taking a walk or catching up with a loved one or friend on the phone, is to pick a comfortable amount of money that you can afford that will not derail any of your goals and transfer it to either your emergency fund or your brokerage account. That often scratches the itch of needing to see the money do something else, and it helps you financially rather than the money just disappearing on something that you may not even like or value. When Venus is square to Uranus, it's not the best time for making really important decisions since it's less likely to stick or to last. This can be a destabilizing time, so it's better instead to be open to exploring new information or new ideas and to practice being adaptable and open to change, both how you relate to yourself and what is authentic to you, as well as how you relate to others. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different because it's a capstone episode. It's pulling together everything we've talked about over the last several weeks: emergency funds, saving psychology, budgeting that actually works, paying off debt without burnout, and investing for beginners, and shows you how all of it leads to something people often think is unrealistic or out of reach, which is financial independence. For a lot of people, hearing the phrase financial independence can trigger a reaction. Some people may immediately think, oh, that's just not for people like myself. Others could imagine extreme deprivation, never getting to enjoy life, maybe living on beans and rice forever, or working themselves into exhaustion just to escape work entirely. And some people assume that they've already missed the boat, that if they didn't start at 19 or 20, then it's too late for them now. So before we go any further, I do want to be very clear about what this episode is not. This is not a pressure-filled manifesto telling you to quit your job, sell everything you own, or live a hyper-minimalist life. This is not about chasing a fantasy version of financial independence that only works for a very narrow group of people. Instead, this episode is about something much more grounded and realistic. It's about understanding that financial independence exists on a spectrum and not as a finish line. And it's about recognizing that many of the things you may already be working on, sometimes without even realizing it, are quietly building more freedom, flexibility, and security into your life. My goal today is simple. I want you to walk away understanding that financial independence is not a personality type or an extreme lifestyle. It's a set of aligned decisions over time. And more importantly, it's something that can support a full, enjoyable life, not replace it. Let's talk about what financial independence really is, why it can feel intimidating, and how all the pieces you've been working on finally fit together. Financial independence at its core is not about never working again. It's about reducing how dependent you are on earned income for your basic survival. It's about buying yourself options. When you're financially independent, even partially, you have more flexibility and autonomy. You can walk away from an unsafe or misaligned job. You can take career risks with less fear. You can weather economic downturns without immediate panic. And you can make decisions based on your personal values instead of desperation or emergencies. What financial independence is not is deprivation forever. It's not refusing to enjoy money. It's not moral superiority. And it's not a competition to see who can suffer the longest. A lot of people reject the idea of financial independence before they ever really understand it. And there are very real psychological reasons for that. For many of us, money is deeply tied to safety, identity, and past experiences of scarcity or instability. When someone hears save aggressively or delay gratification, their nervous system doesn't hear strategy, it hears a threat. It hears you're going to lose comfort, joy, and security right now. That's why I prefer to talk about financial independence as a long-term stress reduction tool rather than a goal you're supposed to rush towards. When done correctly, the effort you put towards financial independence can calm your nervous system, vice trigger stressful responses. And that's where the idea of values-aligned financial independence comes in. This approach acknowledges that people have different incomes, different responsibilities, different health needs, and different life goals. Financial independence doesn't have to look the same to be valid, and you need clarity, consistency, and compassion for yourself along the way. One of the reasons I wanted this episode to exist is because many people don't realize they're already building towards financial independence. They might think FIRE starts with investing or extreme savings rates, when in reality, it starts much earlier. Let's walk through how each piece we've discussed plays a role. Emergency funds are the foundation of everything. Before you ever talk about growing money, you have to be able to absorb shocks. Life is obviously unpredictable. Jobs can suddenly change, health issues can arise, or cars can break down. An emergency fund prevents one unexpected expense from turning into a financial spiral that can derail your goals. This matters for financial independence because without liquidity, people are forced into decisions they wouldn't otherwise make. They could take on high interest debt, they might stay in jobs that harm their mental and or physical health, or they could sell investments at the worst possible time. Emergency funds reduce your dependence on debt and your vulnerability to short-term crises. That alone is a form of independence. Saving psychology matters next because saving is not a math problem, it's often a behavior problem. Many people know what they should do, but struggle to do it consistently. That's why we talked about automation, identity-based habits, and reducing friction rather than relying on willpower. Consistency is what compounds money in your favor. Small, repeated actions over time matter far more than occasional bursts of perfection. If you're saving something, even if it feels small, you're practicing a financial independence behavior. You're strengthening the muscle that makes long-term independence possible. Budgeting that actually works plays a huge role because budgeting is often how you align money with real life. A good budget gives you control without restriction. It allows for permission to spend on things that you value most in life. It acknowledges that joy, rest, and meaningful experiences are not optional. They're essential to your daily life right now and not some far away mystery date in the future. This is also where the idea of a time-dependent bucket list comes in. Some experiences are meant to be enjoyed when your body is capable, when your energy is high, and when certain opportunities exist. Financial independence should support living across all phases of life, not delay your joy indefinitely. Reviewing and adjusting your budget each year allows you to intentionally choose when to enjoy certain parts of your life, not just if. Debt without burnout is another quiet builder of independence. Debt doesn't just cost money, it costs attention, emotional energy, and future cash flow. Managing debt strategically, without shame or urgency that leads to burnout, frees up resources over time. And that increased cash flow gives you options. Also, investing is the growth engine that makes independence mathematically possible. Saving protects your money and allows it to be liquid in case you do need it in an emergency. But investing is necessary to grow your money. Long-term, consistent investing allows your money to work even when you're not actively earning. It protects against inflation and creates future income that isn't tied to your labor. None of these pieces work well alone, but together they create the momentum you need to have financial independence and stability at each stage of your life. One of the biggest mindset shifts that makes financial independence realistic is understanding that it's not an on-off switch, it's a spectrum. Most people move through stages: survival, stability, security, flexibility, and then independence. Each stage offers its own benefits. You don't need to reach the end of the spectrum to experience meaningful relief. Someone with 1 month of expenses saved has more independence than someone with none. Someone who can handle a job change without immediate panic has more independence than someone who is unable to. Someone who invests consistently has more independence than someone who relies solely on future income. Even partial progress matters. It reduces anxiety, it increases your negotiation power, it gives you time and space to make thoughtful decisions. When people feel discouraged, it's often because they're comparing their middle to someone else's highlight reel. The real question isn't, am I financially independent yet? It's, am I less financially vulnerable than I used to be? That question is far more grounding and far more motivating. One of the most common reasons why people burn out on working towards financial independence is rigidity. Strict rules just don't work well for humans. Life naturally changes and priorities shift, which is why I start each episode with astrology to let you know that it's both natural and encouraged to routinely look at your values and boundaries in case you need extra practice practicing them, or if it's time to evolve in some way. A system that can't adapt will eventually break. That's why customization matters more than dogma. Financial independence should support your health, your relationships, and your values, not undermine them. A healthy approach allows for pauses. It allows for seasons of higher spending. It allows for recovery after setbacks. And it recognizes that independence isn't just about numbers. It's about how safe and supported you feel in your own life. If you've ever thought, I just don't make enough, or I started too late, or even life keeps interrupting, you're not wrong and you're not alone. Life does cause interruptions. But financial independence was never meant to happen in a vacuum. It was designed to be built alongside real life, not instead of it. If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, I do understand the importance of financial independence, but where do I start? I want to offer you some relief here, which is that you do not need to fix everything all at once. Choose one lever to strengthen next, tailored to your unique situation. If you are starting at the very beginning, then focus on building or rebuilding your emergency fund. If you have a healthy emergency fund, then focus on automating your investments. Maybe the focus should be on paying off debt in a sustainable way while also investing some of your money. Because remember that once you have at least 1 month of savings in your emergency fund, it's important to balance your money so that you are both paying off debt and investing. And remember that investing is as simple as opening the right type of investment account you need, whether that's a traditional IRA or a brokerage account. Picking one or two ETFs like VT or VUG, and then setting up automatic deposits. And that's really it. Progress really does compound when your actions are purposeful and manageable. Financial independence isn't built through huge overnight changes. It's built through repeated decisions that reinforce safety, clarity, and trust in yourself. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode, it's this. Financial independence is not about escaping work or proving something. It's about safety, dignity, and choice. It's about knowing that you can handle what life throws at you. It's about reducing fear and uncertainty, not just about reducing work. And it's about designing a future that supports your humanity, not one that requires you to ignore it. If this episode helped you see your finances and yourself a little differently, then that's a win. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you next Friday. I want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Forecasting for Success, and let you know that you can read the transcript for each podcast episode on my website, which is linked below in the show notes. I've also included the link to send me your money questions if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast at forecastingforsuccess.com/podcast. And if you're ready to get started on improving your financial literacy and developing your own personalized money plan, I encourage you to join my Forecasting for Success community, where I teach you everything you need to know about budgeting, how to choose your retirement number, how to invest in the stock market, and so much more. I go live in the community each month to check in on your progress and help answer any questions you may have. And it's a supportive community where you can also check in with other members and learn from their experiences as well. I hope you take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.